Assalamu alaikum, and peace and blessings be upon the Holy Prophet and his pure progeny. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he keeps us all firm on the right path and guides us all till we reach Lake Fam. Jannat Al-Baqi is a monumentous place for all Muslims. It's a cemetery for some of the leaders of Islam. According to the statement of the founder of the Sunni Maliki school, Imam Malik, he said that there were over 10,000 companions of the Holy Prophet who were buried there. This includes the Holy Prophet's relatives, his progeny, his wives and his companions. There's a hadith attributed to the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, that says any country in which one of his companions is buried, on the Day of Judgment, there will be a light for those nations and a guide to lead them towards paradise. So now imagine a place that has over 10,000 companions of the Holy Prophet, including his family members. This cemetery is not only a resting place for the companions of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, but also members of the Prophet's progeny and his wives. May Allah be pleased with the righteous ones. One can only imagine how sacred and blessed Jannat Al-Baqi is. Unfortunately, there's a misconception that this is just like any other Muslim cemetery. Not to say that a Muslim cemetery is not sacred, but there's something unique about this place, and a great deal of thought has gone into choosing the location, and more importantly, it was chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. It's been reported in the Mustadrak of Al-Hakim that after Hijrah, migration, when the Prophet arrived in Medina, he had a sense of realization that if someone from his household or even his companions were to pass away, where would he bury them? So the Prophet sought to find the ideal location, and he went looking around Medina until he finally reached a spot, and this place came to be known as Jannat Al-Baqi. The Prophet said, I've been given an order by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to choose this location as it will be the burial place for my members of my household and my companions. As a Muslim, we are obliged to remember the hereafter frequently, and it's for this very reason that the grave has a special connection with the living person. In fact, it yearns for us. According to the hadith of the Ahlulbayt Islam, a human is created from that very clay that they will be buried in. There's a plethora of hadith about the graves. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, in the future, this could be something we can go into more detail. Now, after the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and his progeny chose this location, the very first person to be buried there was from the Muhajirin, called Uthman ibn Mas'ud. May Allah be pleased with him. According to the narration in Sunnah ibn Majah, the Prophet marked his grave with a stone, and according to reports, he said he will be the one who would make our arrangements on our arrival, meaning he will be awaiting the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, and other companions. After his burial, anyone from the Muhajirin who passed away, they used to ask the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, where to bury them. And he used to instruct them to bury them beside Uthman ibn Mas'ud. This also sets a standard how the Holy Prophet wanted people to be buried in Baqi. Otherwise, he would have not left a sign on his grave and instructed others to be buried besides him. Even from the Ansar, the first person to be buried in Baqi was Asad ibn Zurara, and yet again the Holy Prophet instructed that he be buried near Uthman ibn Mas'ud. Today, with the current state of Jannat Al-Baqi, after the demolition in some say 1924, 1925, 6 and 7, you would not be able to identify who the grave belongs to. In fact, in some instances, people have been reprimanded for merely asking this question, who's buried there? Now, there are many other notable personalities buried in Jannat Al-Baqi. The Prophet's daughter, Sayyidah Zainab bint Rasul, when she passed away, it's been reported that the female companions of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, washed her for burial. Then he requested that she be buried along with one of his item of clothing. In other words, the Prophet wanted to give it as a tabarruk, a blessing for her in the grave, as this item of clothing had been on the blessed body of the Holy Prophet. Fragrance with its smell. Now, if this is the status of the clothing of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, then what about his flesh and blood? This shows us that even though she had an honor as a daughter of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, there's no limits on having tabarruk, blessing. The more the better. In fact, Sayyidah Zainab Salam Alayha, she was also a tabarruk for the people of Medina. Ahmad ibn Hanbal in his Musnad has recorded a narration on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, who narrated that the Prophet said when Zainab Salam Alayha passed away, he said, "You have now departed us, and you will join our predecessor Uthman ibn Maz'un." Also, other daughters of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, were buried in Jannat Al-Baqi. Sayyidah Kulthum Salam Alayha, Sayyidah Ruqayya Salam Alayha, Sayyidah Fatima Salam Alayha, the chief of women in paradise. Peace and blessings be upon her and her progeny. Not to mention her children, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, the master of youth of paradise. Then, according to some reports, Imam Hussein alayhi salam's head was also laid to rest in Jannat al-Baqi. His son Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, then his son Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam, then his son Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Allahu Akbar. And this might seem even more shocking for many of you, but according to some reports, Imam Ali alayhi salam is also buried in Jannat al-Baqi. Also, other wives of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, are buried in the cemetery of Baqi. Is the resting place of anyone's mother not dear to them? What about the place that has 9 mothers? The Saudi government have no shame. They claim to be sons of their mothers, and despite this, look how they honored them. They say the paradise is under your mother's feet, and this is one paradise. Here you have many. And then you ask us, why do we call it Jannat al-Baqi? There are thousands of heavens here. This is the status of Jannat al-Baqi. Only those who long for paradise and thirst for it would make it like paradise, not those who are the fuel of hellfire. Those of fuel of hellfire will always have a problem with paradise and do not want to enter it and honor it. Just like the way it is being treated today, the graves have been eradicated, shrines have been demolished, not to mention the restrictions that have been put in place for those who are visiting it. You cannot even ask who the grave belongs to. And there's nothing to identify who they are. In fact, it's even forbidden to recite the Holy Quran there. Even though these practices have been going on for centuries, even from the time of the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him. It's heartbreaking for anyone to look at it in the current state it's in. And if the Saudi government have run short of money, then I make a request to the people of Saudi. Allow us, the Shias, the lovers of the Prophet's family, and the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, to pay for it. We are ready to pay for it from our pockets. Unfortunately, this concept which exists today that has been imposed by the Saudis of how graves are treated, the restrictions, the walls that have been put up, people are cut off and they cannot even go near a grave, even though it's in the Sunnah to sit beside a grave and to take blessings from it and even recite the Holy Quran. Al-Hakim in his Mustadrak mentions a report that a man was leaning on his elbow on a grave. And the Prophet said to him, may peace and blessings be upon him, do not give grief to the one who's in the grave. Now, if grief reaches a person off the grave from an elbow, what about a graveyard that has been bulldozed? A graveyard that has been bulldozed with over 10,000 people. Would they not feel grief? Brothers and sisters, I would like to leave you all with my final words. It's a duty for every Muslim to speak on the injustice committed by Al-Saud. Ask yourselves, what have you done to make the situation better? What have you done? Don't be silent. And if you cannot do anything, then at least pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that one day we will have the honor to rebuild these graves. If you do not honor the dead and the conditions that they're in now, how will you expect to be honored in this life and in the hereafter? I would leave you on that note. Assalamu alaikum, and inshallah see you again soon.